For Ford, it's the F-150. For Toyota, it's the RAV4. So this is a very important vehicle for the brand. And for 2026, they came out with the 6th generation version of the Toyota RAV4. It seems like they made a RAV4 just for about everyone. They have one for the general public. They made one for people who like to do outdoorsy stuff. And for the car enthusiasts, they have the one that looks like a GR Corolla. This is the Toyota RAV4 GR Sport. Now there's a lot of details to go over this video because this new generation has a lot of stuff going on, and there's also a lot of different varieties. So if you want to check out my video on the limited hybrid trim and also on the woodland trim, check out the links in the description box. But for this video, I want to focus solely on this GR Sport trim. The GR Sport is going to be the more car enthusiast focused model, and Toyota made the GR Sport trim to introduce people to the GR hierarchy. So the GR86, the GR Supra, and also the GR Corolla. And I have driven all 3 of those GR cars, and just to quickly summarize, those are very fun cars. They are unique in their own ways, with the GR86 being my favorite sports car because it is attainable, it is very well balanced, and it's just a thrilling ride. So this GR Sport isn't going to be as intense as those other GR cars, but this is not a simple visual appearance package either. There's actually a lot of engineering changes beneath the body panels. On the powertrain front, all of these GR Sports are going to be the plug-in hybrid version. So for the 6th generation Toyota RAV4, Toyota has gone 100% electrified. So no more gasoline only versions. There's only the hybrid and the plug-in hybrid. And they went that direction because for the 2024 model year, 53% of all RAV4s were the hybrids. And just like how the new hybrid has better efficiency and more power, these plug-in hybrids also has greater range, more power, and also better efficiency. So now it makes 324 horsepower and 172 pound-feet of torque, and that's up from 302 combined horsepower from the RAV4 plug-in. The plug-in hybrids also get a range of up to 52 miles, but these GR Sports are going to be limited to 48 miles, and I'll tell you why a little bit later. Now visually, you could really tell the difference between the GR Sport and everything else, and I think Toyota really likes to vary the look of their cars. Just take a look at the Land Cruiser, the Corolla Cross, and pretty much the rest of the modern Toyota lineup. They like to vary the front fascia to give each trim just a little bit more identity. And in the case of the RAV4, there's 3 unique front faces. There's the Core and Sport, which looks very similar. And then you have the Woodland trim, which looks more rugged. And then you have this GR Sport look. And it looks a lot like the GR Corolla because of the GR badge. They have the same hexagonal matrix style grille that the GR Corolla has. They have the same looking ducts and inlets. And this one comes with a front lip spoiler. And it's not just the body panels that's been changed, but this car is also 15 millimeters lower. So the center of gravity of this vehicle is going to be lower compared to the other RAV4s. And there's also a lot going on here because these are unique 20-inch wheels. This is actually 2.2 kilograms lighter than the XSE's 20-inch wheel. And this has a different offset. So this protrudes out more by 10 millimeters. So in effect, that changes the overall track of this car by an additional 20 millimeters. So that's going to improve the grip and stability of the GR Sport. And on top of that, this gets some high grip tires. So these are summer performance tires, higher rolling friction. So because of that, more grip, that's going to reduce down the efficiency. So your overall range, instead of 52 all-electric miles, it is now 48 all-electric miles. And also the MPG of the GR Sport is lower than something like the LE or the XLE and all of the other trims. And one more addition, because this is the GR Sport trim, you have to have the red brake calipers just like the other GR cars. And to differentiate this one more step, this is going to have the wider wheel arches or the over fenders, and it's finished in this piano black finish. And just like these sport trims, you're going to see the piano black or the gloss black finishes for the over fenders. And this one comes with the two-tone paint, so you can get the red and also the black roof. And back here we have a pretty aggressive looking rear wing. This is an option that you could add to the GR Sport. This sort of reminds me of the Kona N-Line that also has a pretty aggressive looking rear wing. And it really completes the look of this GR Sport. And while there's a lot of identity in the front end of the RAV4s, the rear end is pretty much uniform compared to all of the other trims, except for this case, you have more GR Sport badging and then this somewhat crazy looking rear wing. This is still a gasoline engine, so this is where you fill up. And then on the right hand side of the car, we have this J1772 plug. So this has the 7 kilowatt onboard charger. So that means that this is only limited to AC charging or level 2. And this can fully charge in about 2.5 to 3.5 hours. But for some of the vehicles that have the 11 kilowatt onboard charger, that's also going to have the DC elements as well. And that port is actually going to be on the left-hand side of the vehicle. And that's because these RAV4s are global vehicles. They're going to sell to 180 countries, and to sort of standardize these models across all the different countries that they sell to, any sort of charging that only involves AC is going to be on the right-hand side of the vehicle. Any sort of DC charging is going to be on the left-hand side of the vehicle. So that explains why some of these ports are on different locations depending on the trim. Now, as for the interior of the GR Sport trim, there's going to be a lot of red and black GR badges strewn all throughout the vehicle. You have one right on the headrest here. You have it on the steering wheel. There's one on the floor mats and one also on the door sill. You will not forget that you're sitting in a GR Sport vehicle. They've also included a special GR Sport startup animation that will fit into this 12.3-inch digital driver display. And this display is going to be standard across all of the Toyota RAV4 trims. So regardless of how much money you spend on a RAV4, it's going to look fairly modern. The seats on this one is going to have this suede-like or Alcantara-like finish. I think it feels pretty high class, and this should provide you more lateral grip in case you take these on some pretty nice back roads. These RAV4s also come with a 10.5-inch screen, but in this case, you get this 12.9-inch unit, and they've made a lot of improvements to the multimedia system. I like the previous multimedia system, but it could be a little bit better. And I think this version is a whole lot better than the last one, because for this one, you could actually have widgets that you can edit. So they're finally catching up to the other brands where you could easily do this on their native infotainment system. But there's another great feature in this new multimedia system, which I'll talk about a little bit later. As for the rest of the interior, we have a single wireless charger station here. If you get the Limited, these will come with 2 wireless chargers. These are your drive mode buttons, and you could toggle between EV only or hybrid vehicle or just on auto. And then down below, you have a couple of charging ports. This one is only limited to 15 watts. If you get the Limited, this will be 45 watts, so you could charge some of the bigger electronics. And then over here, this is a more traditional gear shifter as opposed to the lower profile version of the other trims. And right beside that, you have 2 cup holders, and just like the other ones, you could take out this divider, so if you have something else you want to store here, you could do that. And then right over here, we have the armrest, and then this has kind of like a double action where you could open it up from either side. And then you could also remove this completely, flip it upside down, so you have this flat surface here to store anything you want. And then underneath the armrest, this space is actually pretty decent. And then you have another USB-C port if you want to extract files from this vehicle. And as for the little details, you have some red stitching here to emphasize the GR brand. You have more red piping and red stitching around the seats. And the soft touch portions of the door panels are actually pretty nice. And you have that on the dash as well. And then another storage solution right in front of the front passenger. As for the second row, you get 37.8 inches of second row legroom. I think this is a pretty decent amount, but there's going to be more room in larger SUVs. And in the center console, you have some vents and also a pair of USB-C chargers, limited to 15 watts. But unlike the Limited trim of the RAV4, there's no heated outboard seats in this trim. And then when it comes to the cargo space of the Toyota RAV4s, you're gonna have 33.6 cubic feet of space behind the second row. When you manually fold down the second row, you get over 63 cubic feet of space behind the first row. Now, before I talk about the driving experience, let's jump into the multimedia system, because this is completely new, and it has this new feature which I really like, and I think other car companies are going to try and catch up and do the same thing. Now, like I mentioned before, the previous multimedia system was good, but it could be a lot better. And this time, yes, they've included widgets, which is really nice, and you could customize it any way you want. But the real nice feature that they've added here is the addition of Drive Recorder. So basically, this will use all of the external cameras around the car and treat it as a dash cam. So this is going to continuously record up to 90 minutes. So this isn't going to be like Tesla's Sentry mode. In that case, if your car is just parked and someone just bumps into the car, it will start recording. But in this case, the car has to be on. So this is a good start. And in this case, this will save up to 4 manual recordings. So you could just hit record and it will record a 20-second segment. So 10 seconds before you hit the button and then 10 seconds afterwards. So you could store up to 4 of those here. And then it'll also record up to 5 driving incidents. These are triggered during any sort of incident. So it could be a collision, or it could be if you just go over some off-road trails or something like that and it starts sensing some different vibrations that's not normal. And also there is a map view so that you could see wherever those events were recorded. So in this case, we could go through all of the different driving incidents moments. So I'll just click on the latest one. And again, this doesn't have to be some sort of a collision. It could just be some random event. In this case, the car drove over some grates here and then it triggered it. And as you can see, it recorded seconds before and then seconds after. And since this has cameras all around, you could also pull up all of the different views that it recorded. I also like how it recorded the license plate, so this can properly identify this incident to the vehicle that's recording this. And you could toggle between all the different views. And if you ever want to extract any of these things, these are going to be in the MP4 format. And yes, you will just have to connect your computer or whatever, and it will register as some sort of external device, and you can grab the files that way. Now, there's other nice benefits of this new multimedia system. Their voice assistant is pretty rock solid. It works a lot faster than before. And because this is a plug-in hybrid vehicle, you can charge these things at different stations. The one problem with the previous multimedia system was that there was no way to have some sort of dedicated EV or charging information on the infotainment system. So they've introduced this EV domain, and it shows you the amount of charge you have left, the charge limits, your maximum charging current, and also the scheduling when you could charge these things. And I also like that if you go into the cloud-based navigation, it shows you a shortcut for charging stations. So that's another handy feature. Now, when it comes to the driving experience of the GR Sport trim, this is going to offer a better dynamic driving performance compared to all of the other trims. First of all, the fact that this is a lower car, this is going to make it feel more taut around corners. And you could really feel the difference between the Limited, the Woodland, and also this GR Sport. This just feels more tight in general, and I really like the amount of steering feedback on this car. Now, while it's not to the degree of the GR86 or the GR Corolla or the GR Supra, this still feels pretty good considering that this is a compact SUV. The wider track and also the high grip tires contribute a lot to that more sporty feeling. So the GR Sport has a ton of upgrades below the sheet metal. So first, we've got the rear lower arm cover. This is more of an aerodynamic component to help increase downforce on the rear axle. And then we have this front performance rod with damper. This is the relative size compared to my hand, and this bridges the left and right sides on the front of the car. And then we have the rear suspension brace, and this just adds a little bit additional stability for the rear axle. So if you want the ultimate RAV4 driving experience, then absolutely get the GR Sport. And also the fact that this has the plug-in hybrid powertrain, this is a pretty powerful car. The previous one was already pretty powerful when you put it into hybrid mode. So therefore, not only do you get the propulsion from the electric motors, but also from the internal combustion engine. Altogether, 324 net horsepower. This is a pretty quick car. So overall, I think this new Toyota RAV4 is a pretty magnificent compact SUV. I like the new design. I like the amount of standard amenities that you get in here. You get the 12.3-inch digital driver display. Looks pretty modern. And you also get that drive recorder, and that is standard across all RAV4s. You don't have to spend the top trim money to get that feature. Now, you do get more camera views if you have the panoramic view surround monitor, so you get that 360-degree camera view. So more information there, but for general dash cam purposes, the front and rear is generally going to be good enough. And as far as the driving experience goes, if you are a car enthusiast, I think it is worth getting the GR Sport trim. I want to thank you so much for watching all the way up to this point. Again, there's a lot of details here, so if you want to see my review of the Limited Hybrid and also of the Woodland, check the links down below. My name's Hanson. This has been the 2026 Toyota RAV4 GR Sport, and I'll see you in the next one.